Hello everybody and welcome to Round Few Reviews, here with a really strange deep dive into more wonderful Japanese V cinema from director Haba Sashinami, who did the Big Boob Buster, released in 1990. I'm not kidding, Big Boob Buster. I'm not just talking about the first one, I also be talking about the second film into a lesser extent. Probably wondering, Andrew, why are you talking about this film? Well, one, here's the poster. The tagline that I saw, I don't know if it was on the Blu-ray, I don't know if it's on the original poster, was something along the lines of, stop distracting people with your big tits and do your homework. And it gets better because the synopsis, if I'm not mistaken, is about a young student, a flat-chested woman who gets rejected by her boyfriend because he wants to basically have a girlfriend with big tits, big boobs, and decides to become a superhero slash kind of vigilante character dressed up in gear to go after women in a high school who have big tits and basically put them in their place.
Well, gentlemen, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Poster, that tagline, that synopsis made this a must-watch for Amflu Reviews, and just out of pure curiosity to see what kind of film it was. And being the fact it did get a Blu-ray release, a high-definition new transfer in America, being the fact you get all these kind of big, kind of mainstream kind of Japanese films and Hong Kong movies, and you get all these wonderful editions from Arrow, and as we talked about many times in this channel from the test discs, and you get something like this, a very low-budget 90s kind of wacky, fun idea, V-cinema, slapped on Blu-ray, a bit of a stealth release. I think it deserves a bit of recognition, and this film was really, really fun. It's a 45-minute short. It's from a director that I've never heard of. He's not done many feature films or any short films really since. He's done two others, which I've never heard of. I don't know if he's more of a TV director. I'm not entirely sure. It's a bit of a mystery kind of film. It's promised to be really entertaining, really well put together in terms of the cinematography, the editing, the acting's pretty good. Being the fact that the premise of the film, what's kind of drawing you in, is the first kind of 20-25 minutes, and the rest of the runtime is something a little different. And I think it delivers on the concept and gives you something a little bit more on top that you probably weren't expecting. It is exploitation to some extent. It is an excuse to have boobs in there, essentially. You know, maybe that's how this kind of short film was kind of put together, very similar to kind of the Pink genre. I got this really wacky idea, but I really want to do a coming of age kind of high school story about, you know, body image, about self-esteem, about self-respect, about kind of, you know, not judging other people because of their maybe advances, if you know what I mean, but just have self-belief in yourself and kind of, you know, flourish and do well, you know. And it's surprising how he goes from a cheeseball kind of, yeah, very 90s exploitation kind of idea, an excuse for boobs to be shown on screen, to a nice kind of coming of age kind of story to kind of cap it off at. You know, the concept kind of gets dropped, and it comes back a little bit towards the end just to kind of remind you, and then it kind of finishes. It's kind of a nice little movie. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds. And I think the first half I thought was really, really fun. I actually would love this to be an actual feature film, if they can keep this kind of energy going. And she steals this research from this creepy man at the high school. I don't know why. It's kind of a random plot line. This kind of like, you know, a CD kind of, you know, floppy disk kind of thing with all the women who have big boobs in the high school, and she goes after them one by one. And you got this kind of really kind of stylized kind of like locations, and the cinematography, the music is really fun. Her getup is very kind of late 90s kind of, you know, punk rock kind of attitude, and she has this kind of air can spray kind of thing. And basically she's creating molds of the big boobs, and she's not really stopping them, really. She's just kind of exposing them and basically saying, stop distracting men with big boobs, and, you know, stop, you know, doing your exams more or something. And she takes out all of her victims one by one, but not killing them, not hurting them, but just kind of pinning them to the ground, taking molds for a collection. Why is she collecting them? I don't know. Is it really stopping these women? Probably not. But they start to get aroused by it, and that's where the kind of exploitation stuff comes in. That's where you get some more of the kind of the steamier kind of like, you know, oddities about the film. And, you know, there's a pretty awesome kind of sequence later on where it's almost like a Batman, a kind of a rogues gallery villain, where she's kind of having to quickly get changed and face off against someone who's got a steel kind of plate. And, you know, the fact that she can't do her usual tactics, and she gets stopped, and this woman's going after her, and it's very kind of comic book superhero villain-like. and she has a great line in that short, in that kind of moment, where she basically says,
私は巨乳ハンター。小さい胸に用はないわ。
Brilliant.
funny as hell. And of course, the rest of the film, as mentioned, from that point comes more of a coming of age kind of drama, and much of the rest of the film is as well. Right? You know, it actually has a good resolve, and it throws in one last kind of gag in there as well in terms of the air can spray that she's using. It's a bit of light, naughty fun for a 45-minute short, and I found it to be quite entertaining and more than I expected to be while watching it. Tobio Kobayashi directed the Big Boo Buster 2 Summer Adventure. This is the so-called sequel, but not really a sequel. It's kind of like just tagged on there. Another short film, 1 hour and 11 minutes, I believe, and it has nothing to do with the first one. It's got that very basic kind of concept in terms of another superhero character, which takes the gag of the first one and uses it intertwine. Essentially, is two women that are jealous of this popular girl, or someone who also has big boobs, basically steps into this kind of dimensional portal. They end up following her in this portal, and they wind up in a random place in the middle of nowhere. And essentially, from my understanding of it, they are trying to escape back into their world, and they are chased down by cannibals who track down people with big boobs, I guess. A really funny scene where she's basically lecturing a woman with big boobs and basically saying, hey, you know, you need to learn maths, or you need to learn history, you know, if you want to get married and be a good wife one day.
まずこの式を移行して X イコールにする。それがこれからのキャリアガールの理想の姿なんでしょうが。何よこれ。分かった？胸が大きいからといっていいお嫁さんにはなれないのよ。
In terms of the unofficial sequel, I found it to be quite charming. I quite enjoyed what was there. You know, what I could make out in terms of the story. Visually, it's pretty fun. You know, it's a very much excuse to have some nudity in there, but the bigger ideas I think are pretty fun. I would like to see that kind of more realized, more kind of fleshed out. If I can see it potentially later on in a HD format, maybe with some better subtitles, maybe there's some more behind the scenes of the film. There's definitely legs in this kind of idea, and I definitely think this could make a really fun kind of double bill. Maybe that could be something that Winder could do maybe later on. Oh, maybe do a V-Cinema shorts collection box set, you know, random shorts, you know, from different lengths of 45 minutes, an hour, and you could sell that as a package. That's my thoughts and impressions on Big Boobs Buster 1 and 2. What are your thoughts, guys? Please comment down below. In the meantime, guys, down for the reviews. Signing out.